my name's Miss Allie. I'm so excited to be here with you all today in the garden. So to get started, who can remember what did this garden used to be? Anybody know? Raise your hand and let me know. It used to be a lot. Right, it used to be a parking lot. People used to put their cars in here. Exactly. And then families and teachers came together and changed this space into a garden. They started planting all these trees, planting all these different flowers. Why do you think they would do that? Why would families and teachers want to plant all these plants and trees? Turn and tell a buddy sitting next to you, why do you think they would plant all these trees and plants? And at this time, I would go over and talk to a group and listen to what they're talking about. Great, so who can raise their hand and tell me why did families decide to plant all these trees and plants? What do you think? Plants help us, for sure. Can everybody take a deep breath and let it out? Yeah, plants made that breath. If it weren't for plants, we wouldn't have had that breath. Everybody take another deep breath and let it out. And can everyone say, thank you, plants? Thank you, plants. They made that amazing oxygen that we need to survive. Exactly. And why else do we need plants? Can anybody think of another idea? Raise your hand and let me know. Exactly. They give us food too. Families have started planting all these vegetables over here because plants help us. We need them to eat. Who's ever eaten an apple before? Who's ever eaten a banana before? Who's eaten a pepper before? Who's eaten a carrot? All of those things come from plants, right? So we depend on plants to survive. Why else do you think they planted all these plants and trees? So it would be a nice place for us to spend time. For sure, it's beautiful, right? We get to be out here, spend time with our families in this beautiful space, for sure. Now, is there anyone else who could use this garden besides us people? You all came up with great ideas of why people would want this garden. Anybody else? Animals, for sure. Who can think of some different animals that might live here? Insects, butterflies, maybe coyotes would come by, for sure. Rabbits, birds, all sorts of different plants and animals live here in this garden. We are in their home right now. So parents and teachers decided to build this space so that animals and plants would have a good home and to help make our ecosystem a healthier place to live. So I just said that big word, ecosystem. Has anyone ever heard that word before? Ecosystem. No, but how about let's break that word apart. Has anyone ever heard the word, has anyone ever heard the word system before? Great, exactly. Let's talk about one kind of system we have. We have the digestive system. The digestive system. Turn and tell your buddy, what are some of the different parts of the digestive system? What are the different parts of the digestive system? Turn and tell your buddy. What do you think? Great. Okay, can someone, 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. Great. So who can tell me what are some of the different parts of the digestive system? This system here. Right, first we have our mouth where we bring the food in. Then what's the next part? It goes down this tube called the esophagus. Our food comes down. And then it goes down into all these parts. We don't need to get into the nitty gritty of what they are, but we have our stomach, we have our small intestine, our liver, and in here, all the nutrients come out from the food we eat. They go into our body to make us big and strong. And then eventually, we poop out the stuff we don't need, right? So we have all these different parts. It's a system that has all these different parts that work together. So that's something really important to think about a system. So there are all these different parts that work together. So eco means life and life that works together. So now if we put this together, we have and I'm going to want you all to act this out with me. Whenever you hear the word ecosystem, we have plants and animals in one place that work together to survive and need each other to survive. So let's practice that again. Act it out with me. An ecosystem are plants and animals in one place that need each other to survive. All right, so let's practice. In our Chicago ecosystem, we have a lot of different plants and animals. Great. So I'm going to use the word ecosystem a lot in our next activity. And whenever I hear it, I want you to act this out. You don't have to say anything. Just act that out so we remember what an ecosystem is. Great. So let's talk about the ecosystem here in the garden and in Chicago. I'm going to pass out to you all. I have for you all a bunch of different cards that are all the different parts of an ecosystem. Okay, so I'm going to give you the different parts of this system. And let's see which part of this system gets it started. This is the part that gives all the energy to the system. Without this, the ecosystem wouldn't work. What part gives energy to the system? We have the sun. Exactly, the sun gives energy to the ecosystem. So you who have the sun card, you're going to start with the yarn. You're getting our ecosystem. You're getting our ecosystem started. So you're going to start with the yarn, and then you're going to throw the yarn, the ball of yarn. You're going to hold onto your piece, throw your ball to the next person who comes after you. So now, who uses the sun's energy? Who uses the sun energy and turns it into food? This thing just sits out, takes the water that it gets, takes the air that we breathe out, takes that air, takes the sunlight and turns it into food. Anybody know what does that? Plants, exactly. Or I'm going to give you a fancier scientific word for them, is producers. So producers are those plants. They take the energy from the sun, they take what we exhale, they take the water, and they turn it into food. So now, sun, if you can throw your ball of yarn to all the producers. Who is a producer? Raise your hand if you are a producer, right? We have some plants here. We have milkweed. We have trees. So go ahead and throw to all the different producers. Great job. Now, who do you think might eat those producers? Oh, I have something else. Whenever you hear producer, you're going to act this out, okay? Because producers are the plants that use the sun's energy and turn it into food. So whenever you hear producer, you're going to go. All right, so who eats the producers? We have lots of different animals, like insects, for sure. You can see some of the leaves on these plants are missing little pieces, have holes where maybe insects ate them. Maybe there's some animals like rabbits, for sure. So if you have any of those parts, any insects or animals that would eat those producers, so producers, go ahead and throw your yarn now to the consumers. Great. Oh, and I'm going to give you, that makes me think, I'm going to give you a new fancy word for the creatures that eat producers are called consumers. Great. And I'm going to give them a mouth because they eat the producers, the plants. All right? So whenever you hear consumers, you're going to go like this. They eat the producers. All right? Now, who do you think might eat those consumers? We have some predators, right? And here in Chicago, we have things like bats. We have things like owls. They're also consumers, but we are going to give them another word. We're going to call them, another word you could use to describe them is a predator, because they eat other consumers. So they are an even bigger mouth. They eat the consumer. So the way you are going to act this out, whenever you hear predator, you are going to go like this. They eat the consumers. Great. So now we have our producers, we have our consumers, we have our predators in our ecosystem. Great job, everyone. Now, what happens when these things die? What happens when the producers die, when the consumers, when the predators die? What happens? Do they just sit there? They eventually get broken down into the soil. And these things that do that are called decomposers. Things like fungus, things like mold, things like worms. I know one of you all should have a worm card too. So if you were a predator, go ahead and throw your yarn now. Throw the ball of yarn to all of our different decomposers. They decompose things. They break things down into the soil. So this is another good word for us. Decomposer. So whenever you hear decomposers, you are going to do that acting out motion like a fungus. They break things down into the soil. Beautiful.